G'day guys, Chris Starry here. Today I'm going to go through why mid-season draft prospect Jackson Callow was not drafted in 2020, and I'm also going to talk about why or how Callow has exposed a recruiting blind spot. So, put plainly, Jackson Callow is AFL ready and was an unlucky draft snub last year. On performance, Callow should have been a first round choice. In 2020, Callow featured inside my top 20 power rankings, given the level of his performance through the NAB League in 2019 as a key forward, and also for his play as a key defender in 2020 in Tasmania, which only enhanced his draft credentials for mine. For several years now, clubs have passed on the more physically developed key forwards, as often those who are more physically advanced at younger ages tend to have less remaining development. With Callow, this approach misses the point, as someone who could step into an AFL side today, provide a target and play a role for a team. There is also in this approach by type when assessing the more physically developed key forwards with stronger contested marking capabilities, a relative lack of vision from club recruiters, and a lack of understanding as to how attributes can translate perfectly from one position to another. A lot of those strong marking types play as key forwards in the junior ranks, while for AFL purposes, generally you want more mobile types with additional ways of impacting games beyond just taking contested marks for the most part. The opportunity being missed is a lot of those stronger bodied key forwards can transition into defence and develop games into something like Jeremy McGovern and in the previous generation Brian Lake, as to my eyes at least those two most dominant key defenders I've seen. With McGovern intercepting anything that comes in high and long or to a contest, giving rival clubs no bailout kick option and forcing precise kicks to lead up targets at all times, forcing rival clubs to play around him and avoiding kicking anywhere near where he might be able to get to at all costs, while Brian Lake on the other hand would routinely turn one-on-one marking contests into marks for himself through his reading of the drop of the ball, his body work, one-on-one, and strong marking in contested situations. So you don't need to be a supreme athlete, as both of these guys show, and you don't have to be all that mobile or a freak at ground level to do these things when you're playing as a key defender. And that's why I really like the fit of a lot of these taller, strong-bodied, strong contested marking sort of key position types in defence. So if a club drafts Callow during the mid-season draft, a club could add a capable and ready-to-play key forward. But if it turns out for AFL purposes his game lacks enough diversity to consistently impact games as a forward, my opinion is you could switch him back and he could offer just as much as he could offer much of what the likes of Lake or McGovern have, possessing those sort of same qualities. If I'm a junior or state league club, my vision with other big-bodied, stronger marking key forwards in the future is, if they go undrafted, to switch them into defence the following year and see if that works, as their games should be easily translatable. From an AFL club perspective, I'd also spend time considering their attributes and how their games would translate to key defence play. So I'd be looking at whether they're expert readers of the ball in flight, whether they're dominant contested marks with sticky hands, and if they consistently win their one-on-one contests and use their bodies well in these situations. They're the things clubs should be looking at, and if the guy is elite in each of these areas, as with Callow, or a combination of those and strong in others, that should provide them with enough information to give them a feel that the prospect can be a key defender, even if athletically they're subpar, and if there is less development left in them, given they're more advanced already. Because if they're doing these things already, there isn't a lot more development needed ultimately. And it's just about learning the craft by position. For those who have not seen my most recent AFL mid-season draft power rankings video, Callow has overtaken Edwards as my number one ranked player. And if he were to go undrafted during the mid-season draft, would, like last year, feature inside my top 20 power rankings this year, with a spot inside my top 10 not out of the question. For an interesting aside, the last tall Tasmanian I was strong in endorsing was Ben Brown, rating him inside my top 40 in both 2010 and 2011, before eventually getting drafted in 2013 after crossing to the VFL. And the last time I rated a key position player inside my top 20 and they went undrafted, aside from Callow last year of course, that was Jordan Butts, who the following season was rookied by Adelaide and is now a regular part of their best 22. With Callow a Tasmanian and a key position player who was moved into state to garner greater interest, I like my chances of Callow going on and enjoying success at AFL level, given my success over the years with selecting key position players with greater accuracy than AFL clubs on average over my time scouting the junior competitions nationally. Callow currently ranks number 1 in the SANFL, so this is of course at league level, for contested marks, and 8th for total marks. And in his successive matches against Central Districts and Adelaide, made the SANFL look like a joke. So in both games, 7 contested marks, 3 goals in each, and the first of which was in the rain. And in those games, he was looking like a man amongst boys. And this guy's an 18-year-old. So it's not like he's a 25-year-old, he's 18. So he's doing great, particularly given his age. And in a performance as well where he took the field against Jason Horn earlier in the year, in watching that game online, I was hoping for a strong performance from Horn. And instead I kept noting down moments Callow was having an influence instead. So, and of course with Horn, well, he's South Australia's top-ranked prospect, and rightly so at this stage, he's looking like it. But Callow to date has been the more dominant player. Not to say he's going to have the better career, of course, being the more physically advanced player, but to compare them at this point in time, Callow is the better and more dominant footy player at SANFL league level. And also in Callow's performance against Adelaide's SANFL side, Callow forced Adelaide to rotate through 4 key defenders, starting out with Fisher Mackesy, where it looked easy, before worrying Worrell, with SANFL defender Matthew Merritt taking him next, and then later Adelaide rookie James Borlase, who was probably of the lot the most competitive, and the only one that one-on-one really held up to any degree at all, or halved any of the contests for that matter. And through much of the second half, Callow forced a double or triple team because there was simply no answer for him. So an 18-year-old doing this against AFL opponents, and in that game against Adelaide, 10 shots on goal, again as I've mentioned already, 7 contested marks, had 18 contested possessions, several score assists and further opportunities where he could have hit the scoreboard, but instead wanted to reward his teammates and lift their confidence. That's a guy I want on my team. And clubs today, of course, they're looking for athletic unicorns. So clubs want athletic key forwards with complete packages where they can do it all. And the top-end ones, of course, well, they're fabulous. They're terrific. But what clubs ignore is strong-bodied key position players with advanced bodies. So clubs are dismissive of strong-bodied key position players, understanding that they tend to have less remaining development in them. And by doing so, they've missed an opportunity at a key position player who can play at AFL level this year. There is a spot on AFL lists for footballers of all heights, shapes, and abilities. And it's just about looking at their attributes and determining where they fit. Because if they're impacting games, as Callow and a lot of these other strong contested marking types can, there's a spot for them. And my view is that spot's in defence. Thanks for listening, guys. And if you enjoyed this podcast, in the comment section below, type in more podcasts, and I might make some more in the future. But if you enjoy this video, make sure you give it a like. And if you haven't already, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more content, and see you in the next video.